Hello, my name is Leah Postilnik. I am a clinical applications analyst at InterSystems and a registered nurse. Today, I'm excited to be presenting InterSystems Intelligent Chart Review application, a sophisticated tool used to improve chart review workflows through NLP technology. I will start by describing two use cases for intelligent chart review. The first one will be focused on quality reporting and how intelligent chart review can significantly improve the efficiency of quality metric tracking. The second use case focuses on clinical trial cohort identification. I'll be describing how intelligent chart review will automate the screening process for clinical trials and improve patient enrollment. We will then see a live demonstration of the software. The demonstration also includes a new user-friendly interface that allows you to easily define the NLP search terms and then build the intelligent chart review template that will be used in the end user workflow. The product benefits include the ability to improve chart review efficiency by making that process less manual, enhancing quality data management by pulling key data elements out of medical records and making that data accessible and usable, as well as supporting clinical trial and research registry enrollment by identifying key patient search criteria. So what is Intelligent Chart Review, or ICR, and how does it work? Intelligent Chart Review uses natural language processing to help chart reviewers who have to sort through many patient records and a great deal of data to identify key terms within those records. At its core, ICR helps these individuals get the information they depend on for decision-making quickly and easily. Through the new user interface that has been added to the product, non-technical users will be able to define the terms that will be identified by the NLP engine and group patients based on that data. It is important to note that while ICR can stand on its own, it can also be embedded into other applications. As you can see in the image on the right, Intelligent Chart Review tab can easily be added to the InterSystems clinical viewer. This means that EHR users don't need to leave the EHR to use the ICR application. Patient context will be maintained based on the patient's chart that the user has open. Now I'll discuss how ICR is used in real-world settings. As you know, about 80% of medical data remains unstructured and untapped after it's created. This data is stored in progress notes, clinical reports, imaging reports, etc. Organizations need to track how well they are performing on quality metrics for reimbursement and other purposes, but much of that information is often stored in that unstructured text. A study of effort required for quality reporting in physician practices determined that staff dedicated a total of about 15 hours a week just to quality metrics tracking. This includes reviewing patient charts, documenting findings, and then reporting those findings. This process created about $15.4 billion in annual spending just for those physician practices, and likely more for larger institutions. As you might expect, the main reason this process takes so long is because it's highly manual. This is an example of a quality data manager or care provider's workflow. They review the quality measure, such as this NQF measure related to breast cancer chemotherapy. Next, they look through multiple EMRs, finding the patient in each EMR, then look through both unstructured and structured text and write everything down. Next, the determination of whether or not this metric was met is reported to a regular body or sent to a registry. Payers also have to track quality metrics and perform similar manual chart reviews. This is a list of NCQA HEDIS measures. The weight assessment and nutrition counseling measure specifically requires that the patient have a note documenting nutritional counseling. Here we can see the description of the measure. For the patient to qualify for this measure, and therefore for the organization to receive reimbursement, there must be a note indicating one of the several discussion topics. In this example, ICR would be used to define a NLP rule that quickly identifies terms like eating habits, nutrition, or diet across the entire patient record, and then present the relevant documents to the chart reviewer. Here's a clinical note example that indicates that the nutrition metric has been met. The ICR application will automatically present this note to the chart reviewer. The second use case where ICR has a powerful impact is clinical trial enrollment. Low enrollment is a major barrier for trial success. Across all clinical trials registered on clinicaltrials.gov in 2016, there was a 4.5 million patient shortfall of target enrollment goals. Unfortunately, 86% of trials do fail to recruit enough patients on time. Timely, accurate patient identification is one major reason why. So why is patient identification and trial matching so hard? You probably know where I'm going with this, but the process is manual and expensive. About 4 hours are spent reviewing data for each patient. Screening costs run up to $90,000 per trial and about $2,500 per patient. Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center did an analysis and found that for an oncology trial, it would be required to review 163 patients for that trial. With NLP technology, that workload could be reduced by 85% to just 24 patients per trial. So if you're able to filter out more of the ineligible patients earlier in the workflow, you'll be saving resources later in the more extensive and expensive steps of the screening process. So how would ICR work in helping to screen patients for a clinical trial on Batten disease, for example? A clinical trial coordinator needs to ensure patients are eligible and actually have Batten disease. The symptoms of Batten disease are complex and possibly vague, such as nystagmus, or eye movements, decline of physical and intellectual function, and developmental regression. Many of these are unlikely to be coded as diagnoses and are more likely to be documented in a H&P or a progress note, for example. ICR will display the documents that include these and other terms associated with the disease. Researchers will be provided with a list of patients who qualify based on those NLP terms. Researchers can also add to or modify the NLP search criteria to better identify the trial patient population. Now, let's see how an actual user would work within the ICR application in a live demo.
For the live software portion of the demo, I'll be demoing the first use case we talked about today, which was identifying patients who qualify for quality measures. The HEDIS quality measures in this example are related to breast cancer and what type of treatment breast cancer patients received. When we first launch the application, the Quality Data Manager is presented with a given measure group and its associated measures. Each of the measures has an associated patient list. This is the list that the Quality Data Manager will be working off of as their work list. The patient list can be generated in multiple ways depending on the use case. For example, in our HEDIS use case, the list may have been provided from an external system such as a claims data warehouse. In our breast cancer example, this list could be generated using Health Insight or another analytics platform where we can evaluate patients for confirmed diagnoses within a specific time period. Each measure can contain its own patient list as the inclusion criteria could vary. From here, the manager selects a patient to view the information within unstructured text in the patient's medical record. ICR provides the user with a list of definitions and a count of how many times the definition appears within the medical record. While the count is presented to the user in a single value, it is important to note that this count is based on a configurable set of terms defined in an interface I will be showing at the end of the demo. ICR is searching for all of these terms in the medical record and then shows how many times the terms appear in total. This makes it easy for the Quality Data Manager to quickly identify what therapies the patient has received. For further inspection, I can select a given definition. I see that terms associated with the definition tamoxifen appear 5 times in Jennifer's record. When I select tamoxifen, 5 documents that contain the terms are now available on screen. As I select one, I see the chart excerpts section of the application. Here, I'm able to see exactly where the relevant information was documented. I'm immediately presented with the excerpt that contains the information with some highlighting applied. I see that this is a medical oncology consult note. We can see that tamoxifen is highlighted as a match, along with some other terms like the stage and the type of breast cancer that this patient has. Negations are also highlighted. This highlighting is configurable and can be used to indicate matches, negations, durations, measurements, and frequency. Once I have reviewed the information, I can set a conclusion for Jennifer's quality metric status. In this case, I would decide whether Jennifer had or had not received tamoxifen based on the information I was able to review with the help of the application. I select the conclusion, hit update, and move on to the next patient in my list. Intelligent Chart Review also includes a user-friendly interface for creating and defining the NLP terms and definitions. Quality managers, clinical trial coordinators, or other individuals responsible for selecting the terms that need to be found within the medical record can use this interface to easily do so. On the home screen, I can see the measure groups that have already been created. We just saw the breast cancer metrics workflow, so let's take a look at how it is set up and modified. Here we see the 3 quality metrics that quality managers are responsible for reviewing within the patient population. These 3 sections correlate with the tabs at the top of the ICR workflow screen. As I open one of the sections, I see the conclusions that quality managers can choose from based on the data in the medical record. Below are all of the definitions that are relevant to this metric and the terms that make up each definition. I will create a new definition called chemotherapy. The terms that I want ICR to identify are chemotherapy and chemo. Once I apply the new definition, I can see that it shows up in the chart review workflow under the appropriate measure. I see that chemotherapy appears once in this patient's medical record. Again, I can select the full text note to understand the clinical context.
As you saw, I, as the data quality manager, was able to quickly identify whether a patient met a quality metric based on key terms in documents presented to me on the same screen. I did not need to read through pages of notes and documents. You also saw how I would modify the NLP terms and definitions. As criteria for a quality metric or a clinical trial changes, this provides an accessible way to quickly refine the search process. Thank you for listening. If you are interested in learning more about the ICR application or InterSystems in general, please feel free to reach out to me or another member of the product management team.